top of my sheet and I forgot to do that. So there we go. Now we're going. All right, so let's go. Molly, do you want to start? Just name and current position, please.
Sure. Hello, everyone. My name is Molly Allison, and I'm the school nutrition coordinator at Hopkins Public Schools.
Why don't we just go around? Do you want to jump on in and go? So Josh, do you want to go next?
Yeah, sure thing. My name is Josh Hewitt. I am currently an assistant professor in the Department of Anatomy, Cell Biology, and Physiology at Indiana University School of Medicine in Indianapolis, Indiana.
And Kelly?
My name is Kelly Perry, and I'm a physical therapist at a hospital in Spencer, Iowa. I had also worked out in Klamath Falls, Oregon for about 8 years as well. And now we've relocated back to the Midwest.
Awesome, thank you. So the way I have the question set up is we'll start with kind of current day, present situation, and then we're going to go think about past. How did you get to be where you're at right now? And then we're going to look future at the end. And students have provided some questions, and so I've kind of integrated some of those in, and then I have some separate ones that we'll ask as well. So let's start with, can you tell us about your roles and responsibilities, as well as what type of people you work with and what type of environments you work in? So let's go reverse order. Kelly, do you want to start with this one?
You bet. So like I said, I'm a staff physical therapist. I work in a hospital setting. And so we treat patients throughout the lifespan, and we are seeing patients in kind of 3 different practice areas. And so what I mean by that is I see people who are admitted to the hospital. So whether they're in the intensive care unit, on a medical floor, just had surgery, or even sometimes we go down, not as common, but sometimes we go down to the ER as well to see and treat patients. And then we also see patients in an outpatient basis as well. So those are patients coming in from the community who are coming in to see us for a treatment plan. And then we do some home health. So we're actually going into patients' homes to provide treatment. So our roles and responsibilities. So I evaluate, screen, assess, treat, and educate, and work towards discharge for patients, whether that's in each of those settings to kind of achieve that goal or that next step for them. So we work in interdisciplinary groups with hospital staff to facilitate communication and safe discharge or medical management and plan for patients. With that, so we're working with some of our interdisciplinary groups. We do like a discharge plan daily. So it's meeting with the doctors and resource managers, nursing staff, pharmacy. Who else is in there? There's the home health nurses as well. And so we're all communicating about patients that are currently in the hospital and kind of what are their challenges that they're having, whether medically or physically at that time, to get them feeling better and kind of get to that next step, what that might look like once they no longer need to be managed medically in the hospital. We've had the opportunity to work, like my favorite part about it is serving the community and hopefully being able to have a positive impact on patients' health journey at that time. And so it's been a really great experience. In Oregon, I did the same thing. I worked for a hospital-based physical therapy. So I did a 50-50 split between inpatient and outpatient.
Awesome. And alums, just so you know, we did put the questions in chat too. So as we go through and you're going, oh, what did he ask? You can always just check there to see what the question was. So Josh, how about you next?
Yeah, sure. So at so as this is a school of medicine, my tenure track position is primarily research heavy. So I'm really mainly a research faculty. There are some teaching requirements, but it's much lighter than you would see at a place like St. Ben St. John's for faculty. Like for example, this semester I had to provide a couple of lectures for courses, right? Because basically there's a bunch of different faculty that have their specific area of expertise, And so there'll be a course developed around, musculoskeletal health and disease. So right within each area, there'll be a particular faculty that will give a couple of lectures within their specific area of expertise. So the teaching requirement is a little bit lower, but that's because it's unbelievably research heavy, right? So a lot of my day-to-day is, being in the lab and, doing a lot of different lab work with, grad students, medical students, residents that are here. A lot of times we have residents that rotate through the labs through various, internships or programs. Same thing with medical students, and then obviously, PhD and master's level students as well. And then working a lot with other, principal investigators, people that have their own labs like mine, and collaborating. So a lot of the individuals that I work with, they're also right research heavy academics or graduate students. And then a lot of the day-to-day also consists of a lot of writing, right? Because at a medical school, there's also a high demand to obtain grant funding to support your lab, to support your lab's research, and to support your salary. So a lot of places like this, you're not entirely on hard money. And if you're not familiar with what hard money is, it means that your salary is not 100% guaranteed, meaning you have to cover part of your salary when you're in a really research intensive environment like a lot of the medical schools are. Roles. So yeah, it's a lot of that. And then obviously there's, a lot of service requirement. So being on different committees. So right now I'm on a couple of different PhD student dissertation committees. I'm on a couple of master's student thesis committees, and then various internal committees, to try to facilitate grant funding, trainee programs, that sort of thing. So I think I covered anything. Am I missing anything, Don? Is there something else I should touch on?
So Judge, what is your primary?
Oh yeah, I didn't even talk actually about what I research. So I'm when I was at St. Ben St. John's, a lot of the courses I took within it wasn't even a major yet, but a lot of the courses in exercise physiology, exercise science, kinesiology, I took a lot of those courses. So then I kind of went down the path of exercise science for my master's degree. And then I went more basic science for my PhD in interdisciplinary biology with a focus on muscle physiology, skeletal muscle physiology. And then I spent the last 4 years postdocing also here at Indiana University School of Medicine in cachexia. So my research expertise is in cancer cachexia, so musculoskeletal wasting, muscle dysfunction, neuromuscular dysfunction in cancer, and also anti-cancer treatment. So the negative effects that chemotherapy has on the musculoskeletal system. So essentially identifying the mechanisms by which cancer and chemotherapy mediate musculoskeletal wasting, mediate muscle dysfunction, and strategies to either preserve or counteract that. So that's my main research focus.
So Josh, quick caveat, we just had a St. Ben student complete an internship at Mayo Clinic in Arizona, and she did research in that area, looking at nutrition and exercise and prevention of muscle wasting. So pretty cool stuff.
Awesome, very cool, very cool.
So Molly, how about you?
All right, so my role as the school nutrition coordinator here kind of contains a lot of hats. So I do a wide variety of menu development for all of our elementary schools. We have 6 that I oversee, and a preschool building. There's also someone in my role in charge of the secondary schools, but we do a lot of collaborating. So I menu develop, and that's menu writing. If there's any students in our schools with special diets, we also write special diet menus. I do a lot of vendor relations with our primary food vendors, our milk vendors, any paper products. And with COVID and still not recovering yet is our supply chain challenges. So there's a lot of days where we're not getting what we're ordering. So it might be a quick change in the menu or seeing if we can get any subs. My role also encompasses a lot of staff management. With overseeing 6 elementary schools, I have kitchen teams in all of those schools. So a lot of working through some staff relationship problems sometimes, just being short-staffed in general right now, the way of the world. So I'm in the kitchens a lot, getting to serve kids and cashier with them. And then we do a lot of recipe testing. So we're always trying to be innovative with our menu items. And I'm very lucky here in Hopkins, we have a very scratch cooking strong menu. I would say about 85 to 90% of our food is scratch cooked. So we're seeing things like chicken tikka masala and Somali chicken and lemon herb turkey pasta, some things that it's not just quite like heat and serve. So the kind of people that I'm working with and the environments that I'm in every day is very different. Sometimes, very rarely, I'll be in my office all day. Otherwise, I'm in the kitchens. I'm having meetings with principals, with teachers, staff, parents, and the kids who we're primarily trying to serve. So it's kind of a wide variety of things here in my role. I do get to use my RD license a little bit in the fact that I get to write all the special diets and I get to menu plan. And in school nutrition and any school system, we are heavily funded by the government. So there's a lot of requirements that we have to meet in school nutrition as far as what color vegetables you're having every day to meet requirements for the week and your calorie counts and saturated fat limits. And we are in a review year, so we are cracking down on a lot of the things that we have to make sure all of our I's are dotted and our T's are crossed this year.
Excellent. So students, as we go through and we get done with questions, I'll just look out to the audience. If you have a question, please just raise your hand. I'll call on you, and then we'll ask the grads if whatever question you might have. Okay. So any questions at this point? Okay. Seeing none, we'll continue on. So the next question then is, what's the best part of your job? And why? And then the second part of that is, if you could wave your magic wand and change any part of your job, what would it be and why? And then for Kelly in particular, there was a question that a student submitted. Does your job ever get repetitive as a physical therapist? Okay, so tell you what, we're gonna go reverse order. So Molly, let's start with you.
Okay, Matt, the best part and my favorite part of my job is the kids. Elementary students are hilarious, even though when you're serving them lunch or cashiering, you're seeing them for maybe 5 seconds every day, but they'll remember you. And if you're new to that school, they'll call you out on it. They'll tell you when it's their birthday or what they had for dinner 3 days ago. So I would say definitely the kids are the favorite part. And it makes some of the harder days with staff management worth it, because you get to see why you're doing what you're doing. Some of these kids are only getting a super great, valuable meal when they come to school. So it's really fun to be able to see that full circle and see them excited about the things on their tray. And then if I could wave a magic wand and change some part of my job, it would be staff management. I think coming in fairly young, was a little intimidating for me to learn how to manage staff, especially some of these staff members who have been in their roles for 18, 20 years. Managing staff is never easy, and there's always something to learn. So again, to put it back to the kids, if I could wave a magic wand and all adults would kind of act in a sense like a child, that if they have a problem, they just forget about it the next day and we all just move on and be friends. That would be something I would change in my job if I could wave a magic wand. And as far as repetitiveness for me, I would say no. No day, a part of my week or month or year is ever the same. It's always controlled chaos here in school nutrition.
Josh?
Yeah, best part of the job, I guess it's kind of two things. One is the level of freedom, right? So if you're if you're a independent faculty investigator, right, you can technically investigate, research, whatever you want, right? So that's awesome. And it's awesome because I absolutely love research, right? So that is definitely the best part of my job, exploring the unknown. If you like problem solving, right? If you like exploring unknown areas, if you like trying to come up with solutions for, in this case, right, to reverse muscle wasting, to reverse muscle dysfunction. It's very, very rewarding to be involved in this type of research. That's definitely the best part of the job, but you have to love research, and I just happen to love research. So that's definitely the best part. If I could wave a magic wand, it would be to not have to worry about bringing in money to do what I want to do. That's definitely the most challenging part, is having to be able to fund the projects that you want to do. Because again, technically I could look at and research whatever I wanted, but I need to be able to have the funds to support that, whether it be the funds to support, the equipment, or actually, grad students or research technicians. You actually have to be able to support your lab to be fully functional. So it would be amazing if I didn't have to worry about actually bringing in the money to do that. And then as far as repetitive, never. Not possible. Not possible with this type of research for it to ever be repetitive, which is also one of the joys, because I tend to be bored very easily. And so the fact that something every single day is different, it never gets boring. So.
Ellie.
So the best part of my job, I love being a physical therapist. I love that I get to connect with the patients. Our role in the healthcare field is really unique in the fact that I get to spend sometimes 45 minutes to an hour with some of my outpatients that come in, and that can be sometimes twice a week even. So I'm really getting to know them well, help them to reach their health goals, to be able to see somebody from like kind of where they started, kind of see those stepping stones as they're getting to reach their goals or to that kind of next step. It's really rewarding to see. We, being in the 3 different practice areas in terms of seeing inpatients, outpatients, and home health, it's never repetitive at all. Everything is always really different. So just like each of you are really unique and different, all of our patients are as well. They have their own interests and their backgrounds and their own health challenges, that we're working through and working towards, and none of it is ever cookie cutter, at least for where I am working at. And so I love the challenge of the different environments and getting to do extra research even while I'm treating patients. I'm always learning. So even though I've been doing this for 12 years, I still go home and study sometimes at night and look up, what is the latest research, and having that. So like he had mentioned with being in research, it's really important to know kind of how to look at research too, and how to apply that and to utilize that. And I felt like my experiences at St. Ben's and the courses that I took, being a biology major, really helped me to do that. I'm sure I'm not nearly as good as he is, as really dissecting some of the research, but it's been helpful to use that and apply it to patients. Let's see, we see patients, and when we're working with patients in the hospital, we're not only just working with the patient, but we're working with their families as well. And it can be a challenging time for a lot of those patients. They're at their most vulnerable. They are experiencing sometimes life-threatening points in their life. And so it's really humbling and impactful to be able to work with them during that time, and to help them learn how to move again, and to give them some control in an environment that sometimes can feel very out of control when you're the patient going through that. And so we also help to teach patients how to move safely and independently and get them back to their health goals, whether that's returning to work or sports or recreation. And so it's very rewarding for me, and certainly never repetitive. If I could wave a magic wand and change some part of my job, I would say, there's certain patients that it's very medically complex, and the hard part is sometimes accepting that I've done all that I am capable at that point of being able to do, and from a musculoskeletal perspective, and that trying to just set them up to be able to help self-manage the best that they can at that point. But there's challenging diagnoses that we work with, or they have a lot of very complex histories, such as maybe they're at different points in cancer treatment, and their prognosis medically isn't looking very good. And, you know, for some of those patients, if I could wave that magic wand and change that for them, I certainly would. There's been a lot of times where I wish I had that magic wand. So if you guys find it, let me know. And then the other part would be maybe with the insurance coverage too. So that can be a little bit of a challenge as well, where we're seeing good progress and potential, but we may be limited in our amount of time or visits that we're able to work with a patient because of some barriers there.
So questions from the audience? All right, seeing none, we'll keep going. So many of the students in the room here are contemplating a number of different career options. And one of the things that we're going to be doing in our Introduction to Exercise and Health Science course is really thinking about who we are, what gifts do we bring to the world, and then how do they overlap with the careers that we are interested in. So if you could think about your career and what knowledge and what skills and what qualities really are critical for doing the type of work that you do, so that if a student here says, that's the skill or that's the knowledge area that I really enjoy, then it might be a good overlap between who they are and the career that you're in. So we're going to reverse order again. Kelly, we'll start with you.
So the number one thing I would say is liking to be around people and to talk to people and being compassionate and being open-minded as well, and open to people's differences, and, you know, not only open to the differences, but looking at the ways in which we're similar and finding those connections that are some of those like basic human connections too, because at the root of it, as humans, we all kind of want and desire the same things. And so being able to kind of put aside some of those superficial differences and being able to connect with another person is really critical for the type of job that I do. You're trying to elicit behavior change, which we all know changing our behaviors and the way we do things is not easy. It can be challenging. And so I was really grateful that I had some background. I majored in biology at St. Ben's, and then I minored in psychology. That was something I didn't realize how much it would come into play, and not even dealing with, you know, people that I have like a diagnosed, you know, psychological disorder, but just that ability to elicit that behavior change and to kind of maybe help to understand those bigger moving pieces of what might be impacting a person's journey towards improving their health, what barriers there might be. We spend about, I think I said like 45 minutes, so anywhere from half hour, 45 minutes, or an hour, like with a person one-on-one. So being able to, have those good communication skills and kind of being able to talk with them and be open and a good listener are really important parts of my job. Let's see. The communication piece as well, we talk with a lot of different providers or people in that day, and being able to change kind of the audience, you know, understanding what audience you're talking to and being able to change your wording. So me talking to a colleague, I'm going to be using probably a lot more of those like medical terms, things that resonate well for us because of our background and our training. But when I'm trying to explain that to a patient, like being able to change that communication style to resonate more with what terms might be more understandable to someone who hasn't lived in that field, in the medical field, day in and day out, and then being able to communicate like quickly and efficiently in the hospital setting with our nurses and our doctors and our resource managers as well are good skills to have. For knowledge, let's see, so I think I mentioned I majored in biology, and then we went on to graduate school, and so anatomy is a really huge part in our field. Another one that was really big was statistics. So I remember not being super excited about the statistics part, but it was extremely helpful for when we are looking at like some of our special tests that we do, being able to know like, okay, this one, it's, you know, sensitivity or specificity. So how it can rule in or rule out, you know, different differential diagnosis is super helpful to have a good understanding kind of those, that part of statistics. And it helps you to know how accurate that special test is and kind of what the norms are, that minimal detectable change, to help set those goals and make sure that you're assessing that progress. We also do like goal writing. We do direct supervision of support personnel. So we have, as a physical therapist, I have like a physical therapist assistant who works with us as well. And so being able to kind of communicate there for patient care with our front desk staff as well. And then if you are interested even in education type of work, when you're also maybe interested in the exercise and sports, or even just movement and kinesiology and health, physical therapy might be a good role for you. So I had at one point considered or thought about teaching, but I realized through my role that I do, I actually am teaching people every day. So I'm getting to educate and teach them about their own bodies and to kind of give them those tools in their toolbox to help learn how to take care of and self-manage the health issues that they're having at that time. So let's see. I think, did I cover that, or is any other questions about the knowledge and skills or qualities?
I think you covered it well. Thank you very much. So Josh, what you?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things is being curious in this type of work. You got to be constantly curious. I think also just a desire to not stop learning, right? You always need to be reading and trying to stay up on the most up-to-date, you know, literature with respect to your field. So basically, even though I'm not technically enrolled as a student, I consider myself a lifelong student, right? Because I'm always reading and always looking at, you know, the new publications that are coming out in my particular area. So I think having a high level of curiosity is extremely important, and just the willingness to learn. And then, you know, wanting to surround yourself with bright people is also important. I think that if you're in this type of environment, you know, if you think you're the smartest person in the room, you're wrong. And if you know without a doubt you're the smartest person in a room, then you're in the wrong room, right? You should really want to be surrounding yourself with people that are bright and people that you can learn from, so you can expand your skill set and learn new, you know, whether it be new molecular techniques or whatever it might be. So I think, you know, those are important, at least things to strive for if you're in this type of field. Time management is imperative. There's, you know, it's there, you'll never feel like there's enough hours in the day because there's so many things that are constantly going on. And, you know, whether it be that you have experiments going on that you need to attend to, or you have, you know, countless meetings that you need to be involved in, but then you're also having to write, you know, your latest manuscript, or write up the data, or analyze the data, or write the grant. So time management is extremely important. So if you have good time management skills, right, you might at least be on the right track for enrolling in a research heavy type of field or position. As far as just general knowledge, well, it's, you know, I don't know if there's necessarily a standard base for this. As long as you're willing to learn, I think that's what's most important. If you want to end up being in a research intensive or research type position, obviously, you know, molecular cell biology is extremely important for this type of work, as we do a lot of, you know, cellular biology, molecular biology techniques in the lab. And having a good understanding of skeletal muscle physiology in this type of work is extremely important, as we do look at, again, muscle function, muscle wasting, ways to preserve that. But as a, you know, my first love being exercise science, you know, having a good understanding of physiology in general is really important, and how exercise can change physiology systemically and within skeletal muscle specifically. But again, just having the desire to learn is I think most important. you know, it's not always easy and everyone makes mistakes, but attention to detail is extremely important in this type of work as well. You need to be extremely rigorous when you're doing scientific experiments. You want everything to be as well controlled as possible. And a lot of times if you're learning or doing a new technique in the lab, attention to detail is extremely important, because one mild minor mistake can derail everything else, right? So if you mess up step 2 on a 20-step protocol, and you didn't realize that you messed up step 2, you might have just wasted 2 days of your time, right? By the time you get to the end and realize that nothing worked and you don't know why or how. So having a good attention to detail and being organized is also extremely important, right? Taking notes, documenting everything you do so you can repeat what you do, and so anyone else can repeat what you do. That's extremely important. It's, so often if you're talking to other academics or other researchers that are trying to replicate recent findings from another lab and they can't do it, right? So it's extremely important to have good detailed protocols, good detailed notes. So anything that you do can be reproduced, because if it can't be reproduced, well, then it's not very rigorous science. So that's definitely, being organized and having good attention to detail is definitely important. I'm not sure that there's anything else in particular. Yeah, I think just, again, the biggest thing is being curious, wanting to learn, being driven and passionate about the particular area, because research can be draining. It's fun. I love it. It's not for everyone though. But if you do love it, I think that's important, because you have to love it, because it can be draining, but you got to be driven. I think that's it.
Ollie.
Okay, so I'm going to mirror a couple of things that they had said. One is to be organized. I definitely find myself having really strong organization skills and being very detail oriented. Having 6 elementary schools is a lot of different coordinating between menus. Yes, we are, as a school nutrition department, our own department, but we still, each of our kitchen teams live underneath the principal technically in the building. So sometimes principals have different requests that they want to see happen in their kitchens and cafeterias. So definitely organizing and managing multiple things at the same time. Another piece of that organization is being ahead of the game always. So right now we just started November, but I'm working on December menus right now, because the month goes quick and our supervisors need to be ready to order. So always being organized in the fact that they have what they need and the time that they need them. So sometimes it's very confusing as to what day we're in or what month we're in, because I'm always multiple months ahead. And then being detail oriented is like we have to follow our recipes pretty much to a T. Our supervisors get some flexibility as far as adding seasonings, but because we're being very strictly regulated by the US government and the state government for funding, we need to make sure our vegetables are in line, our vegetable subgroups, our calories are to a specific level, saturated fat. We have a wide variety of programs, from the school lunch program, school breakfast. We have a fresh fruit and veggie grant program. We do after school snack. So there's just a wide variety of programs that we're running that each have their own requirements that need to be met. And again, with 6 elementary schools doing all of those programs, the organization and detail oriented is very important in those types of roles. Another skill to have, if you're interested in school nutrition, is problem solving. All great plans never go according to plan. So being able to pivot quickly, whether that means a staff member called out, how can we effectively still serve all those kids that are coming down for lunch, whether you're ready for it or not? Or maybe pasta is out for the day and we actually didn't get that on our delivery, but we're supposed to be serving it on the lunch line today. How can we problem solve and still feed those kids, still get everyone the knowledge that they need? And how can we pivot rather quickly in some instances? So problem solving is definitely something that you become to be very equipped with, especially over the last couple years that we've had. And I would say in school nutrition, the reason I chose it and a quality that I had in me that drew me to this position was to have a passion for overall wellness and teaching healthy habits early. I did a rotation in the hospital setting as a dietitian when I was getting my RD license, and I loved it. I loved being able to talk about diets with patients. But I found that in school nutrition, you can make an impression on the littlest learners, and they're going to remember some of those things for the rest of their life. Like if you teach them, okay, is your tray very colorful? Do you have a fruit, a vegetable, milk, protein, and a grain on there? And a lot of them will remember that for the rest of their life. So I think the elementary and school nutrition in general is just a very impressionable group and a population that I get to work with. So that's something that drew me to that. And that was just something that I had inside me that was telling me to go this way. And to be creative, I think in school nutrition, despite having all the requirements that we have to meet for funding, we have a lot of creativity, a lot of creative freedom to put whatever we want on the menus. We like to recipe test with the students. So getting to get what they want. Yes, just yesterday we did a macaroni and cheese recipe. That's a pretty staple for elementary students. So they were ecstatic to be able to tell me what they liked about it and what they didn't like about it. And just getting to create recipes that we know are like trends in today's society. We like to mirror the kinds of trends. I know one school district tried to do a Chick-fil-A sandwich knockoff. Like we know kids are eating that. So how can we make it healthy and something that they want in their schools? And then I would say a skill that people might think you need to go into school nutrition, but I'm here to tell you it's not, is cooking. I don't do much cooking at home. So coming in, I was a little intimidated, like all the rationale ovens and fancy and shiny equipment pieces. You learn to use it and your supervisors are there. Your kitchen supervisors, they know things way more than you do. So just relying on that and not being deterred from this line of work is if you yourself are not the best cook. Because I would be the first to tell you that they are far better cooks than me. And I look forward to getting to eat school lunch every day because I don't have to make it myself.
Thank you. Students, any questions at this point?
How did each of you come to find your job? Like, did you know what you wanted to do going into college, or did your path change?
So the question was, how did your career path, did you know what you wanted to do when you came to college? Or how did you figure out that this line of work was your calling? And so we'll just keep going with the reverse order. Molly, you want to start again?
Yeah. So I came to St. Ben's thinking I was going to be a physical therapist, actually. I had tore my ACL in high school and I had such a good relationship with my physical therapist that I was like, yep, that's what I want to do. I spent one day in chem lab and I was like, nope, that's not what I want to do. So that quickly changed. That was a phone call home. And I was actually in a nutrition like the basic nutrition class at the time, and was talking to the professors and they encouraged me to keep exploring that. And I thought that was a good fit for me because I could still be in the world of health and wellness, but not be a physical therapist and have to continue down chemistry. So that was how that piece changed. And then again, when I went to grad school for public health and to become a dietitian, I thought I wanted to be part of me thought I wanted to be in a hospital. The other part of me thought I wanted to do county public health. I absolutely, when I did my school food service rotation, said, no, I don't think this is going to be for me. But then when I had to do my rotation in a school food service rotation, it met everything that I was hoping to get out of a career, with the interaction with the kids, but getting to be creative and still being around health and wellness. It just sparked my interest. So I had two kind of pivot points that I thought I knew what I wanted to do, but life surprises you. And it's really important to keep your eyes open and to be open-minded to the experiences that you might not think are going to spark your interest.
Molly, I just have to tell you that your comments resonated strongly with a couple of students in the room at the chemistry thing. So
yeah, no shame.
No shame whatsoever. Absolutely. Josh, how about you?
Yeah, no, this is not what I thought I was going to be doing when I first started college. I went into St. John's wanting to be an MD, and I think that was more so parental pressure. But what's ironic is that one of the main reasons I stopped pursuing pre-med was because the thought of not having my first real job for a long time was a big deterrent. What's ironic about that is I did, right, a 2-year master's. I took a year off and taught at a community college. I did a 4-year PhD. Then I did a 4-year postdoc. So I just got my first real job, if you will, at 34. So, but no, I did not think that I was going to be right doing this. And also my interest changed a lot along the way. It was a lot of the courses that I took, and that what at the time was the sports medicine minor, that got me really interested in exercise science, which is why I then went and got my master's down in North Carolina in exercise science, strength and conditioning, because I thought I wanted to be a strength and conditioning coach. During that time, I did a master's thesis, found out that I kind of liked research a little bit, but wasn't still completely sold. So then I took a little bit of time off. I actually worked out at the NSCA for about 4 months out in Colorado Springs. And it was when I was out there that it really hit me that strength and conditioning wasn't for me as a practitioner. I still really like the concept, but being frank, a lot of strength and conditioning coaches are morons. And I would always ask a lot of questions because I did internships at the University of Minnesota. I did internships when I was getting my master's at Appalachian State. I did internships out in Colorado. And a lot of the time what I was finding when I would ask them, why do you train your athletes with this way? The answer I would get is because it works. And it wasn't good enough for me, right? I'm a curious person. Like, I don't understand, like physiologically, why are you doing this? Like, why is this better than any other way? And, a lot of the time it was, well, because this works. And so it was when I was out in Colorado Springs at the NSCA that this was still happening, that I was like, this is just not for me, right? I want to, right, pursue further research. Like, I want to understand molecularly, physiologically, what is happening, right, with exercise, which is why I then went to go get my PhD. And that's when I really fell in love with research. Also didn't expect to be, doing cachexia work, right? This happened to be that was my 4-year postdoc that I did here at the School of Medicine here, was serendipitous, right? I was just finishing my PhD and I was looking for a postdoc. I knew that I loved research. I knew that I wanted to do research. I knew that I wanted it to be related to skeletal muscle because I love skeletal muscle, right? I love maintaining skeletal muscle health. My wife is from North Carolina originally. I'm from Minnesota. There was a job that opened up at IU School of Medicine, which is about smack dab in between where my wife's family's from and where I'm from in northern Minnesota. So I was like, let's just go here, right? It'll be great. And then while I was here, I fell in love with cancer research, cachexia research, and then just happened to be able to find a job here, get a job here. So no, I had absolutely no idea that I'd be doing this. There's a lot of twists and turns along the way, but I don't think I would change any of it because, I love where I'm at now and I love the work and I love the job. And yeah, the journey was a little bit, tumultuous at times, but it was all worth it. So if you don't know what you want to do, don't worry about it. I didn't know what I wanted to do even 4 years ago, right? When I was 30 years old and had a PhD, I still didn't know what the heck I wanted to do long-term. So it takes time and every journey is different. So just be patient and find what you really like to do. I think that's what's most important.
So for me, I knew kind of at an early age that I wanted to go into the healthcare field. I wasn't exactly sure what that would look like. So I did start relatively early in high school, kind of doing a lot of observation hours. That would be a big thing I would recommend for you to do, as well as kind of getting into those fields that you might be interested in. And when you're observing and getting to see kind of that day to day and you get to build that rapport, you're also networking at that time too. And so in high school, I initially thought maybe I wanted to go to be a doctor or a nurse. So I did get my certified nurse's assistant, my CNA license when I was 16. And I continued to work as a CNA both through high school and through college, and then even after college before I started graduate school. And so that helped me in a lot of ways, to be able to kind of apply what I was learning and to, you know, for me, I realized that I really, really respect nurses, but it wasn't what I was looking for myself and for my personal journey. I think I mentioned earlier, I also like talking to people one-on-one and educating. I played sports through high school, and I've also played a little bit of volleyball at St. Ben's. And so I, through sports injury as well, I had my first interaction with physical therapy, and I was like, this is great. Like, this is what I want. This is what I love. Like, I love the exercise. I love that, you know, I got to build that relationship and rapport with my physical therapist. And so then I started doing more job shadowing, because even in the field of physical therapy, there's quite a variety of different aspects that you can go into as well. And so I also was doing, in high school, I did like, they called it at the time like a candy striper, was a volunteer at the hospitals. I'm from northern Minnesota, and so we had two kind of bigger hospitals in the Duluth area that I was able to volunteer at. So I was being a volunteer in like the patient anesthetic care unit, excuse me, and there was a couple other areas as well where they'd kind of rotate us through. So I got to kind of see some of the back ends of, you know, what that might look like for a job. But it was really once I kind of found that desire to go into physical therapy, and the more observation hours I did there, the more I just kind of really fell in love with it and realized how broad it can be as well. I mean, and you can really find those areas that you're most interested in. I even they have what's called hippotherapy. I don't know, have any of you guys ever heard of that before, or what that is? No. So it's actually using horses. So even if you like horses, like using horses to help with movement patterns for children or adults. And so one of my observations that I had done was in a neurology section at a hospital in Duluth. And one of the physical therapists, she led this pro bono hippotherapy where the patients that we would see even there in the clinic, they would come out to this facility. Of course, it was really well screened for who was appropriate for this, and to see some of those kids, you know, this was in pediatrics, the area that we were primarily working in, but some of those kids who had never run or experienced running, like to be on that horse and to experience that, and like that movement of that horse really challenges like core stability. And so it was really eye-opening to me to see like how those different tools could be used. So I mean, even if you're someone who really loves animals, they had dogs come in too. They were the therapy dogs, and they would use that because people maybe that had a stroke and couldn't use one side of their body very well. You get a dog in front of them, and then they're wanting to kind of pet that dog, or even it takes balance and movement to throw a ball for the dog. And it just really changed those therapy sessions, because we could see, you know, I was able to observe them on the days when maybe the therapy animals weren't there to the days that they were, and to see how you could really integrate some of those different tools or things that really, you know, connect or resonate with people. So observation hours were huge. And I would really recommend when you do that, make sure you track your observation hours, because a lot of the graduate schools require that. And so that's something too, is when you're looking, if you are going to pursue a profession where you have to go on to graduate school, kind of make a list of those things that you're doing, those hours, both with applying for jobs and with doing my observation hours. Most places that you go in healthcare profession, people have a business card. So kind of grab that business card, because it can be a quick way to remember that person's contact information and who they are, and kind of writing that down, because you might be looking for references later on, whether that's just to get into graduate school or to look for a job as well. And so when you're making those connections, that observation time can be beneficial in so many ways. Like even if you don't go into that field that you're observing, if you had a good connection with somebody and maybe they help to mentor you into that next step or direction, you know, they might be a good resource for you for a reference. And so I even kept like a little bit of a journal of what I was observing, and all HIPAA related, so no names or any patient identifying things, but you know, different cases, maybe what the health history was and what I saw the therapist do, and just kind of just really brief things to help jog my memory, which helped me a lot when I was applying for graduate school, because you have to fill out pretty big forms for that and application process. And so being able to kind of look back at that helped me to kind of bring different scenarios and things into my mind, both with the application process and with the interview process. And so, yeah, getting out there, making those contacts, observing and really seeing might lead you kind of into those different directions. And even going into PT school, I would say, like, don't go in with tunnel vision. Like, there's a lot of niche areas and specialties and different avenues that you can really kind of hone in on your passions that maybe you didn't even know you had, you know, until you got out there and worked with a certain patient population. So I would say just stay open-minded and be open to learning and exploring kind of new avenues.
Excellent. We have about 3 minutes left. So panelists, last thoughts, thinking back on your experience at St. Ben's, St. John's. What do you recommend? Is there certain courses that you think were really helpful in terms of your career path? Was there certain things that just like best memories that was absolutely wonderful? We recommend that our students get out and do that. What last thoughts or recommendations do you have for our current Gen students? And so let's go back. We'll keep going in reverse order. So Kelly, why don't you start?
Okay, so first of all, my experience at St. Ben's and St. John's was wonderful. I still look back on it and have made some of my closest friends, and it was just a wonderful time all around. And so I don't think there's a way that you can go wrong, as long as you're kind of being, like we said before, kind of open to different avenues. And there's so many resources on campus too. So taking advantage of that, Don was my advisor and he was wonderful. And so thank you, Don, for everything. And having that mentor or someone to go to was really helpful as well. Being well-rounded, I think, is really important. So especially going into the health field, sometimes there can be a lot of pressure on, like, you have to get, you know, straight A's or a 4.0 or a certain GPA. And although that's important, like, being well-rounded is really important as well, especially if you're getting out there and working with people. So different things that facilitate like a team environment. So like I mentioned, I played volleyball. I also did, I felt like sports for me, that team really helped me learn how to communicate, how to work together, how to navigate conflict, time management, the benefit of hard work and dedication, using failure and loss, like being able to reflect on performance and make changes to learn and improve. So anything where you're involved in like a team, doesn't have to be sports, but team oriented, service projects and trips. It gave me a better perspective on life circumstances. So, and especially in a time where things can feel so divided, service opportunities allow us that ability to see humanity in a different light and kind of acknowledge, again, like we talked about before, that we all have those same basic needs and wants, and how maybe people's experiences have shaped them and what you can learn from that. Study abroad, I studied abroad in Japan, so that really helped me with like cultural perspective. It helped me to like more effectively take into consideration cultural differences. So for me, like being in Japan, it really helped me to understand and relate to people who maybe, you know, when I went to Japan, I didn't speak Japanese. And so I learned while I was there, and we started in Tokyo, but we also lived a little bit with some families and traveled to more rural areas. In graduate school, I did a month over in the Dominican Republic, doing service work there as a physical therapist student. And so I only took a little bit of Spanish, and that, thank goodness, thank you, St. Ben's, because that's where I took my Spanish at. And so that helped me a lot there as well, like just being immersed into it. Gave me a really new perspective and understanding that, you know, body language is universal, kindness is universal, like, and you can feel those things, like, even if you can't communicate the same language. And so, yeah, sorry.
We're almost out of time here, and I want to just, Josh and Molly, if you have last thoughts about recommendations, just one last thought. Josh, why don't you go ahead?
Listen to Don.
Thank you.
That's, I mean, that's that in short, listen to Don, right? Like I don't regret my journey. It was a great journey, but I'll never forget, I was sitting, I had 3 grad schools that I got accepted to for my master's program. 2 of them I had full rides. 1 of them I did not. Don told me to go with one of the full rides. I did not listen. I went to App State. It was a great school, but right, it was a lot more student debt. And so looking back on it, right, I should have listened to Don. Right, again, I love my journey, great journey, love where I'm at now, but I would like to not have that student debt. So I would just, listen to Don.
Bali?
Yeah, the last thing I have to say is don't be afraid to reach out to the alums. The Benny and Johnny connection is very strong out in the world. So definitely take advantage if you're looking for observation hours or questions or comments. Just there's a lot of us out there, and I know everyone's pretty more than willing to help.
Awesome. Thank you very much for your time. We greatly appreciate it. Everybody.